Hey YouTube, it's Ember Honey Raven the Big Fat Witch. How are you guys? Honey buns, guys, dolls, and everything in between, and everything outside of. Happy Friday. It has been a wee little bit. I'm trying to get back in my groove, y'all, but woo, life is happening. So I think I told you guys in my last video, we are in the middle of a house hunting adventure. And it has been quite an adventure so far. We have found our dream home. We have gotten outbid on our dream home. We have found another dream home. The market here in Atlanta is hot and it is expensive. But that's okay because we are kind of in the home stretch. I'll let you guys, let you guys in on that when it does happen. How about that? Other than that, it is Friday, y'all. I worked at home today and got quite a bit of work done, and in between conference calls and meetings, yes, I'm in my yoga clothes, y'all. I'm in a sports bra and like my big old house cleaning t-shirt that says that on it. I won't say the A word because YouTube likes to demonetize videos for saying curse words unless you got like millions of subscribers. Anyway, and that is not me, is it? Excuse me. And I'm not editing that out because I'm lazy. How have y'all been? Guys, I am like dying for some content. I was hoping that a lot of you guys would do a Vlogtober. Athena Beth Black is doing Vlogtober, and there are a couple of other witchy folks that are doing it. But I was hoping more would because I miss the content. So I decided I would come and talk to you guys for a little bit about something kind of witchy. I will caveat this with, if you are not a fan of insect parts, animal parts, if you are vegan and you may be offended by looking at a deceased bug, this is not going to be the video for you. Let me take a drink of this because I can feel a little tickle in my throat. It's Coke Zero Cherry. I've been trying to leave it alone, y'all, but it's just delicious. And anyway, so you guys know that I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, which is in the South. And pretty much if you live anywhere in the world, I think you will encounter these little fanciful magical buggos because they are kind of everywhere from Japan to America to Canada. They're everywhere. Anywhere that there's like a tree, these are going to exist. So I'm going to show it to you now. Again, if you are offended or don't want to look at, bug parts, click off now. So I wanted to bring you the magical world of cicadas. I am showing you the little husks that the cicadas lived in while they were underground. So I have been going around. This is actually the second or third bag of these that I've gotten. I've been going around and collecting them because you will find these, they're like hooked onto like trees. You'll find them on the side of barns. Anywhere where there's like wood, you'll generally find these. I've even found them on the side of brick houses. Like, you'll find them. So a cicada is just this big old bug. A lot of people confuse them with horseflies because they have kind of a big meaty body and then they've got these great big wings. And I'm just going to tell you what I know. This is by no means meant to be an in-depth, I am not an etymologist. I do not study cicadas for a living. I'm just giving you like a brief overview so that we can talk about uses in witchery. So this is actually not the bug. This is just the little shell it's not really an exoskeleton, but it's just a little protective outer covering that the cicadas live in while they are underground in their larva stage. So cicadas, if you I'm sure you've encountered them, but if you haven't, they are like these big, they do look like horseflies, and they are what makes that really loud noise kind of in late spring, early summer, and it's like a meow, meow. Like if you live in the South, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These things can get so loud, they can be deafening, especially when there's a lot of them. They do fly around, but again, a lot of people mistake them for horseflies because they look very similar. The cicadas, though, those are the ones that I've kind of called them dumb bugs because they will kind of like fly into brick walls or lights and you can hear them. They'll like, they just crash into them. I think they get, kind of in a frenzy. But anyway, there are several different types of cicadas depending on where you find them in the world. Like I said, people in Japan Some people eat them, but you'll find them all over the place, and there's a lot of different kinds. So one of the main kind of folklorish beliefs behind cicadas is that they come out of their ground, that they hibernate for 7 years and come out. That's actually not true. There are some distinct species of cicadas that, am I saying species? They may be a specific, because I think this is a species. Again, I'm not an etymologist. There are some that will come out every 7 years, but a lot cicadas can do. They can live underground for 2 to 3 years. They do have a 7-year cycle. They have some that have a 13-year cycle. They have some that have I'm looking at my little note here. They have some that have a 17-year cycle. So cicadas have been traditionally associated with, plagues. They've been called locusts. And they've also been considered lucky based on their hibernation cycle. So they will go underground and they live again in these little pods. And then when they're ready, they come out with the little pod on, and they'll crawl up a tree, and then the actual I don't know if it's the larva or the pupa, but the cicada itself will actually bust open this shell and come out of it, and it will kind of, stretch its wings out, because they're a little gooey when they first come out, and it will flap its wings to dry them off, and then it flies away. It's kind of like a butterfly, and it leaves this behind. Now, if you look closely at these, you will see that they all tend to come out. I don't want to get it too close because they are kind of grody, but if you'll look, up here on the back is where they'll tend to pop out. That's where almost all of them are broken open. So I have gone around and collected a bunch of these because you can use them in witchery for cursing and hexing. You can use them for transformation magic, lots of different things. I would caution you, yes, you can grind these up and use them in lots of different things. I personally would not burn these as incense inside my home, only because if it's a bug part, you do not know what you are releasing into your air. Probably in an outdoor ritual, it would be fine. But when I grind these up, I tend to use them as doorway dust, goofer dust, or a dust for, a salt or whatever it is that I'm making. These have myriad uses. I'm just going to tell you about a few. So cicada, because of their life cycle, especially in, I think it's Japanese culture, they tend to be kind of associated with longevity, with a really long life, a prosperous life. I'm looking at this, and even immortality. These cicadas have been represented in a lot of different cultures. Egyptian culture, Asian culture, they're everywhere. So this is not just America. It's not just one culture. These bugs are everywhere. And they can have different meanings, but overall you will find that these are kind of associated with transformation, longevity. Some cultures view them as really, really lucky. Some cultures view them as unlucky. Again, depending on what your belief system is or what your experience of them is, you may have a completely different point of reference for these than some other cultures. So one of the reasons I mentioned trees is because one of the things that I will make a suggestion that you use them for, and again, this is, your mileage may vary, this is do your own research, I'm not the expert, I'm just telling you my opinion, yada yada. So when they come out of hibernation and they, crawl up on the tree, they are actually in search of tree sap. Tree sap is their main source of protein, food. So why is there, is there a bug in here, y'all? I've had the doors open today, so there may be a bug in here. And we are in Georgia, y'all. There's bugs everywhere. So when I say that you'll find them on the side of wooden barns or trees, they are in search of tree sap. So if you're going to use them in magic, keep in mind that these feed on sap. They feed on the sweet sap, the nourishment. So these would be amazing for cursing and hexing if you are trying to take the sweetness out of a situation. I will not make a suggestion as to how or why you would want to do that, but I'm just saying consider grinding these up and adding these to your spell salts if that is something you're trying to do. Conversely, on the more positive side, because these are associated with longevity, if you do want to elongate a process, or you're trying to stretch out a process, or you're trying to work a spell that you want to keep working for a very long time, this would be amazing to add as a candle base. Again, I wouldn't burn this inside my house because I wouldn't want the dust getting into my lungs. It's a bug. You got to be careful with that stuff. Okay. So again, just kind of think about the different uses. When you do think about transformation, because they come out of their husk, you know, they're kind of having this metamorphosis like a butterfly. You can use them in spells where you want to make a change to something. You can use them in transformation spells, growth spells. It's really up to you how you want to do it. These have been used in folk medicine. There is a ton of folklore out there where folks have used these. They have ingested them, or they've made a poultice out of them and put them on wounds. You'll have to read it. There's a lot of, I call it hillbilly magic, but there's a lot of it out there. They also symbolize rebirth. So if it is something where, you know, I always think of the Tower card when I think of rebirth. Like if you read tarot, the Tower has always symbolized rebirth for me. It's always, okay, things are kind of starting all over. And a lot of times with the Tower card, it's a painful transformation. This doesn't necessarily have to be, but it's a good symbolism. So I will say that when I was kind of looking around and figuring out how I wanted to talk about this, I did find a couple of little blurbs with folklore that said, look, if you encounter a cicada, here is what it could mean. Overwhelmingly, in everything I read, there were a couple of things that kept popping up, and one of them is if you encounter a cicada husk, it's a symbol to be careful, to watch your back. These can represent you know, not knowing, not having all the information. But this is also a warning to kind of raise your protections. It does symbolize a warning of such. Now, one of the things, interestingly, that I found is because a lot of people believe that these live on a 7-year cycle. Some of them do, not all. They are often associated with magic and messages because the number 7 is, you know, secrets, messages, magic, things unseen. So again, you can kind of build your own repertoire of knowledge on how you want to use these, but now is a great time to go out and get yourself some free witchy supplies, because again, these are all over everything. You'll have to probably fight the birds for them because birds love these. But if you have pine trees, they love pine trees. And, you know, if you're in Georgia like I am, there is abundance of pine trees, honey bun. But anyway, free magic supplies. I will keep some whole. I will tell you too that because the husk on these is open in the back, if you wanted to write something on a little tiny piece of paper and try to insert it into that, you could make a spell out of that. You have to be creative sometimes when you're using things like this, but again, this is just earth magic. This is something that's been provided by the earth. The animal had already left, so even if you're averse to using animal parts or bones or things like that, this would be akin to, you know, the animal did live in this at one point, but it chose to leave on its own. It's not like the animal passed away in here. It's just something that's been left behind. It's kind of like, I know this is gross, but it's kind of like a toenail that it just didn't want anymore. So again, go out and find yourself some free supplies. Cicadas are everywhere. You can do the same thing if you collect, you know, spiders that have passed away, or, you know, flies. Bugs have a lot of different uses. So I will be doing more of these little tidbits, but I thought it was appropriate to do cicadas because, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. So I hope you enjoyed this little tidbit. I'm going to be doing some more of these so that we can kind of all get back in the groove. I am happy to be back here on YouTube, and until next time, huge blessings. Bye-bye.